Okay, folks, we're set. Good morning. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto, Committee of Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. My name is Bruce Mullock. Panel members today are Yim Chan, Lisa Valentini, and Erin Cheng. This will be a virtual public hearing. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event platform that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by computer, phone or tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When his or her item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you are called to speak. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to property, permission to extend or alter non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property in order to create new lots. Anyone in attendance today who wants to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must submit a written request for a decision by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, email address, because Committee of Adjustment and TLAB will be sending notifications and updates by email only. You may not agree with the decision of the committee. Decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body, TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Procedure. I will call each item in the order that it is listed on the agenda. Now, to make your submission, where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation if requested by the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into the committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name, address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. Now, the applicant or agent will proceed first and may be asked to make a presentation by the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised in order to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then, individuals either in support of or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after the speaker has finished the presentation. When all the speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will have an opportunity to rebut, but only those issues that were raised by the speakers. And that will mark the end of discussion. The application will then be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have the minutes been confirmed for the last meeting by members?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and panel members. Yes, it's the September 29th hearing.
September 29th, okay. Then I'll look to this panel, please, for a motion to approve those minutes. Second? Second by Ms. Valentini. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Motion carried. Thank you. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any declarations? Oh, sorry. Are there any declarations of interest by either panel members or by staff with respect to the items in this morning slot? No. Seeing none, thank you. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have two formal requests this morning. Item 6194 Hudson Drive. The applicant would like to make revisions to their proposal.
And is there another one? You said there were two?
And item 1935 Admiral Road.
Very good.
The applicant is confirming variances with the zoning examiner.
Okay. Fine. Well then, I wonder, moderator, is the applicant for number 6 standing by?
Mr. Chair, just 1 minute. Yes, that's Sean Galbraith.
Okay. Let's have the applicant join us, and
Sean, you can go ahead. You've been unmuted.
Good morning.
good morning.
My name is Sean Galbraith. I'm a planner here on behalf of the application, and yes, we would like to request a deferral, please.
All right, then just let me check with the moderator. Moderator, do we have one speaker standing by on this application to speak? No, I'm sorry, on number 6. Number 6.
Mr. Chair, we have 6 other registered speakers, of which we have 3, I believe,
3 are standing
with
by?
us.
Okay.
One of them has been phoned and emailed, and the other 2 we haven't reached out to yet.
Okay then, so Mr. Galbraith, the reason you would like to defer is what, please?
So we are making changes to the plans, and these have revised the list of variances. At least 6 of the variances have been notably revised, and the new zoning notice didn't arrive until it was sort of too late, and we want to make sure that there's ample opportunity to send the plans out to neighbors and give the committee ample opportunity to review the revised plans and variances.
Okay, so you actually have some revisions in mind that
Yes.
the revisions are solidly in mind, and okay. Let me
Yes, sir.
then confer with the speakers that are standing by. So just to give all concerned an idea of the procedure here, it will be up to the panel members of the committee to make the decision whether to defer or to proceed today. For those that are standing by, I'm going to speak with you each individually for a moment now. And I'm just going to ask you the one simple question, and that is whether you are in favor of the deferral or whether you would prefer to see the application proceed today and be decided upon today as it stands. So that's the one thing I'll be addressing with you rather than the meat of the application. So let's go to the first registered speaker.
At the tone, please record your message. When you are finished.
Mr. Chair, that was Diana Bainbridge, but it looks like she's not here. So the next one is Jeremy Gowen.
Okay. Good morning.
I'm here. Jeremy Gowan.
Jeremy
Moore Park Residents Association.
I beg your pardon, which association?
Moore Park.
Thank you. Jeremy, as you would have heard, there is a request before the panel to defer the application. Apparently, concrete revisions are in mind which they would like to see distributed to the parties that are interested. So would your preference be to allow that to happen or to go ahead and hear the application this morning as it stands?
We would prefer to have a deferral so that we may see what is proposed.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's go on to the next standing by person.
Mr. Chair, the next person we had was Stephen Earle. We phoned and emailed him, but we can't get in touch. And then the one after that was Tom Logan. He was with us, but he's not anymore. Rob Clark is the next one, and I'll go ahead and unmute him.
Thank you.
Sorry, I've just joined. Has this application been deferred?
I'm glad to have you with us, Rob. Rob, here's where we are. There's been a request to defer. That's the panel's decision to make.
I
So
understand.
you're here, you're standing by. My question to you, well, first of all, the background, the panel, or the applicant has actual concrete plans in mind for revisions to the application.
Understood.
So, my question to you is, would your preference be to allow those revisions to be made and distributed to the public, or would you want to go ahead and hear the application this morning as it stands?
I think we would be quite comfortable to give the applicant the opportunity to revise the plans based on the feedback they've received today.
Very good, okay. Thank you for that. Okay, moderator, if those are all the speakers, then I think we've...
No, Mr. Chair, we have one more, Peter Whittington. Peter, you've been unmuted.
Okay. Good morning.
Yes, hi.
You've heard what's going on here. What would your preference be, Peter? Go
I
ahead
think
and
I'd
hear
be
it now,
support-
or defer?
I would support a deferral.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay then. Panel. You've heard there the three speakers standing by are all in favor of deferral. I think I see a motion being put forward by Ms. Chan to defer.
Yes, I would like to move a motion to defer for the applicant to make changes, anticipating the changes for the next scheduled meeting.
Thank you very much. Second to that motion? It is seconded by Mr. Cheng. All those in favor? And the motion is carried. The application is so deferred. And we'll now take the next deferral, which is application number 19. And we'll go through that same process of seeing what the reason is and checking with the speakers. Let's see now. Okay, on 19. Oh, first I'll ask the moderator, is the agent with us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Vanessa Fong's been unmuted. Vanessa, you can go ahead.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Could you tell us, please, why you would like to defer?
Yes, definitely. So we are asking for a deferral as we'd like to take the opportunity to do an additional zoning review on the proposed design. We aren't looking to change the design in any way, but in the past kind of week or two, we've had correspondence with our planner on file, and I guess there's pushback on an additional variance, and we couldn't come to an agreement, and we can't add any variances, obviously. So we wanted to take the time to do another zoning review and to clarify the variances that are listed.
Thank you very much. Moderator, do we have speakers on this one? Doesn't appear to be. No. Okay. So thank you, Vanessa. Panel members, there you have it. Request to defer. Ms. Valentini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to bring a motion forward to defer the matter. It makes the most sense to have all the proper variances before us so that the applicant isn't caught with not everything they need in terms of variances. So I would motion is for deferral.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
Seconded by Ms. Chan. So moved and seconded to defer. Those in favor? Motion carried. The application number 19 is deferred. Okay. And Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any items withdrawn this morning?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, there is item 34, 212 Moore Avenue.
Okay, so that is withdrawn. It's actually the 3:30 session. We could deal with it now, I suppose.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. And does that need a motion to be withdrawn? Do we need to close that file by
Yes.
motion?
Yes, we do.
Okay, panel members, number 34, 212 Moore, there's a request there to withdraw it. So motion by Ms. Chen to,
Yes, yeah, move to withdraw, accept the withdrawal.
thank you. Second, Ms. Valentini, all in favor? Thank you. Number 34, the application is withdrawn and the file closed by a unanimous vote. So, we now return to the agenda with number 1 item. '83 Pendrith Street. And we'll ask the applicant to join us, please.
Yes, I'm here. I'm Deborah Mesher, the designer and agent for the application.
Good morning. Let me just check with moderator. There's one speaker standing by?
Mr. Chair, they've emailed us and let us know that they don't intend to speak anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there are no speakers in interest here?
That's correct.
Or opposition? Okay. Panel, there's no one here to speak in opposition to this. Would you like a presentation on number 1? No? In that case, let's move to any questions for the applicant? Motion? Ms. Chen?
Yes, I have read through the file and all the drawings, and it seems that in the beginning I thought the height is very high, it's 7.1, and I realized that after studying all the plans, it's because of the slope of the site. It sort of create a sort of extra height at one end of the main house, but where the facing the extra height is the school. I do not think the proposal will really create any negative impact. And also, this is a very long site, so they do have a lot of distance between the proposed main house and the main house. So I think the site can accommodate the extra length too. So I'm moving the a motion for approval.
Thank you.
Subject to engineering conditions for all the Laneway house conditions. And that's it. That's the only conditions.
Thank you. So motion to approve subject to engineering. Second for that motion. Ms. Valentini.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe planning submitted a report with conditions as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there are 2 conditions recommended by planning. in the report, yes. I have them too.
Okay, we're going to include those then as well. In second to
Yes.
that motion. Okay, we still have still seconding that motion, Ms. Valentini?
I don't know if we need to speak to the applicant about it, about whether they're okay with those conditions before we proceed. I'm assuming they are. I'm just looking at the planning conditions. I'm happy to second it as is. I'm just pointing that out.
Okay, well, it's really up to us. But if you'd like to go back to the applicant, we can ask the applicant how those would impact the application. Applicant,
I'm here. Yes, I agree with the conditions.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to second the motion.
Motion is moved and seconded. Those in favor to approve? Unanimous. Motion carried. Application is approved. We move to number 2, 512 Euclid. And on number 2, we have before us the following materials: applicant's submission, previous committee decision, staff reports from engineering and construction, and from urban forestry. And there is opposition correspondence from 487, 503, and 489 Manning Avenue. So, on this number, on number 2, 512 Euclid, moderator will ask the applicant to join us, please.
Reiner, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Yeah, Rainer Hoyer, agent for the applicant, 1 Young Street, Suite 1800.
Good morning.
Good morning, members of the committee. I would like to point out there's a small typo on variance number 2. The variance on the notice is 2.23 meters, but the existing site condition, the variance we're actually seeking in, is 2.35 meter from the center line.
Okay, let's just see if staff have captured that.
So we did send in a few days ago a note to the committee to update this measurement.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Moderator, do we have speakers in opposition here? There's 2 shown.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just 1 minute. We have Susan Bishop. Would you like to unmute her?
Susan is with us. So in that case, as long as I know she's there, then we'll go ahead and we'll ask Mr. Hoyer. Mr. Hoyer, you have 5 minutes to make your presentation of the application to the panel. Please carry on.
Oh, shoot.
The new laneway house. So the existing structure is what's causing the variances. We're in line with the neighboring garage to the north. So there's no change to the laneway or no impact on any space for parking. Like, we're not moving the existing garage, and that was somewhat of a confusion with the typo on the variance number 2. Some of the neighbors on Manning, which are in opposition, have thought that the laneway would have been narrowed and the laneway house would have been actually moved more into the laneway. So we have talked to the neighbors, and we have a number of letters of support which kind of came in late from the owner. 510, 514, 516 Euclid, and 483, 492, 495 Manning. And we have been in contact with the objection from Manning, Susan, to try explain that we are not changing or moving the existing structure, so that there will be no impact to her concerns. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Let's see if the panel members have questions for you. Panel? Go ahead, Ms. Valentini, then Ms. Chen.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, my internet froze, I think. I just wanted to refer to the engineering staff report, and it's requiring that under section 1 sub A, that any further encroachments into the existing setback from the center line of the lane, including the overhang and the outward swing to the door, be deleted. I thought can you just clarify for me where the overhang is? I think it's not on the side abutting the lane, but are you going to be able to comply with that requirement?
Yeah, the overhang is on the backyard side.
And what about the swing of the door? There's a requirement that the door that swings outward not do that. Are you going to be able to comply with that as well? And
Yeah,
the other conditions?
it's no problem to swing inside.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Chen, go ahead.
Actually, Lisa asked both of my questions. Those are two of my questions.
Okay, then if there are no further questions at this stage, then we'll move on to the registered speaker to hear from that person.
Mr. Chair, just 1 minute.
Take your time.
All right, Susan Bishop, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for including me. I do know that the other person who sent a letter in is a professor, and they're actually teaching at this time. So one of my concerns was the point about the variance, that it suggested that there was going to be a further encroachment, and that's been rectified, that there is no further encroachment from the current garage. I guess my other concern is right now, the current garage is in a variance of almost a meter. So it's 0.59 versus the rule of 1.5. So for a laneway house, it is encroaching. I am curious about whether the current existing garage actually has approval for that variance. But given that it is encroaching almost a meter, my concern is also just still about the fire, because the rules say that there should be a 0.9 width on the side of the house, and at the narrowing points, it's 0.41 and 0.79, so narrower. My other concern is, I believe they're looking for access through the laneway because for the length, and what I see is that there's various safety measures that are required in the case of getting access through the laneway, automatic sprinklers, strobe lights, increased fire protection. And my concern is now this laneway house is almost a meter closer to my house than the guidelines, and are all these safety measures going to be in place, including with the existing structure?
Thank you very much. Any questions for the speaker or panel?
Oh, actually, I have one more thing. It's really about visibility. So in other words, I'm concerned that there are windows facing into my house, and I do have a deck on the second floor, as well as a room that we use all the time that would be basically looking into that house. So I am concerned about the windows and privacy, both looking into the second floor and into the backyard, because again, it's almost a meter closer into my house than the normal guidelines.
Okay, Susan, any questions for Susan, panel? If not, we'll go back to the applicant, chance to respond. An applicant, issues raised by the next door neighbor involve overlook, potentially, depending on the windows proposed into her backyard, and also questioning, wanting to understand better whether all the safety aspects have been thought about in your proposal. Go ahead, please. Pardon me. I've misspoken here. There is another speaker standing by to speak, so I'll just ask the applicant to hold those ideas in mind while we hear from the next speaker.
Angelo, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me?
We do hear you. Is that Angelo?
Yeah, okay, great. Yes, it's Angelo Mangiardi. I'm the property owner of 489 Manning. And a couple concerns. I agree with Susan. There's definitely those concerns I have as well. The other items I do have concern is it's a two-way laneway. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way laneway. So it's very tight to begin with. And the safety of fire trucks to get through once this building goes up. It looks like the garage is already, the original standing garage is already encroaching into the laneway. So I'm not too sure if that's complying with the current size that it should be. And if they do move anything forward, whether it's the first floor or the second floor, it's going to be very tight for us in the future if we want to build a laneway home to stick out or to have space. That's a very, very big concern of mine.
Would you repeat that last concern, please?
So the last concern is if we allow any variance on 512 Euclid here, and in the future I want to build a laneway home, I may not be allowed because the laneway is already tight. So is Euclid only going to be allowed to build laneway homes? And then Manning will not be able to allow laneway homes.
Okay. So you, in fact, are across the laneway from him, also backing onto the laneway.
Correct.
Now I
Correct.
get it.
Yes.
Now I get it. Okay. Thank you.
489 diagonally across 512 Euclid.
Now I get it. Thank you. Questions?
And we currently do not have a garage, so it's very easy for everybody to move over when there's two-way traffic.
Thank you. Okay, questions for Angelo, panel? No? Okay, so we'll go back now to the applicant with the issues I mentioned previously, which were overlook into the backyard of the next door neighbor and concerns about safety because of the apparent narrowing of the lane. And then from across the laneway, Angelo raises the issue of fire access and also his concern that if the laneway is narrowed by your laneway house, where does that leave him with his a possible laneway house on his property someday? Go ahead.
So in regards to the issues about safety, fire access, all these issues will be addressed through the process of the building permit application. The fire department does not drive fire trucks down laneways. So the existing condition of the existing garage are right in line with the garage at 514, with right next door to the north. So we are not taking 1 inch of space out of the laneway besides what's already is in existence. So the second floor will be in line with the front facade of our existing garage, as well as right in line with the garage of 514 to the north. So there will be no change in the size of the laneway from this laneway house construction. Privacy in ways of windows facing the laneway with fire regulation, there's no way of having any windows on the side of the laneway house. So the only option to have any windows is the backyard and the laneway side.
Thank you very much. Okay. Panel, questions for the applicant? Hearing none, are we prepared? Are we ready now to move to a motion? Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I hear what the neighbors are saying. I understand their concerns. But I think part of the idea of building some of these laneway suites is, in many cases, to utilize existing structures, and we do have an existing structure in this case. I think it's important that there be no further encroachments into the laneway, and the applicant has confirmed that that is the case. They're not going to be having any further encroachments. They can comply with the conditions that are set out in the engineering memo in terms of that. So the structure itself is not going to be moving further into the laneway. So I think that should alleviate some of the neighbors' concerns. And it looks like, based on what I could see of the laneway, all the garages are already, seems to be in line with this current garage, more or less. So I don't think this garage is out of place in terms of its placement. That being said, I don't think, in my view, the variances that are being requested, typically the variance from the center line of the lane is one that, surprisingly, engineering is pretty strict on that one, and that's one that we're, tend to feel it should be met. But I think, like I said, in this case, because the building's already existing, I think these variances are minor in nature. I think it meets the 4 tests, and I don't see any undue impact on the neighbors as a result of it. Laneway suites are permitted, and they're going to have windows. So I understand. I don't think this is an overly huge one either. I'm prepared to make a motion, but I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything further. If they have other further thoughts, I'm happy to bring a motion if they don't.
Only just discussion. We clarify the overhang. There's a little mistake, but we like to impose the deletion of the house window.
So should I carry on with the motion then?
Please do.
Yeah, okay, so the motion would be for approval of the application for the reasons I stated. In my view, it meets the 4 tests, and to be subject to the conditions set out in the development engineering memo. And also, urban forestry has condition number 2 for this application.
Very good. Is there a second to that motion? Looks like it's seconded by Ms. Chen. Yes. All those in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous vote to carry the motion. The application is approved, subject to engineering and forestry. Panel moves along to item number 3. 255 Christie Street. Before us, applicant's materials, a group of 5 previous decisions by the committee, presentation material submitted by the agent, 29 September. There is a staff report from Urban Forestry, and there is opposition correspondence from 283 Christie, Cynthia Webb.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we also received a very late response in opposition from Seton Village Residents Association.
Thank you. And just for your information, Madam Secretary, I'm realizing I don't have the supplementary package. So if that was possible to get me one, that would be valuable. Yeah. I shall check. Pardon me. Terrific. I do have the supplementaries. Okay, great. Thank you. Very good. So, moderator, tell me if I'm correct, on number 3, we have 1 speaker in opposition?
We have 1 speaker. I don't know their position, Mr. Chair.
Okay, fine, okay. Okay, then let's have the applicant join us.
Franco Romano, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Franco Romano, Action Planning Consultants, 2095 Autumn Breeze, Port Credit.
Good morning. Okay, you have 5 minutes to make your presentation to the panel. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I do have a supporting slide, but what you'll see is this proposal seeks 1 variance, and it's to add about 84 square meters or 904 square feet of gross floor area as a permitted gross floor area for the subject site. And the reason for that is because the residential gross floor area definition under the former zoning bylaw 43886 is applicable in this instance under the area or site-specific zoning bylaw. And the purpose for that additional residential gross floor area is to facilitate the addition of 2 one-bedroom rental apartment units within the basement, and it's within the south portion of that existing mixed-use building, which is located at the corner of CHRISTIE Street and Yarmouth Road. There is no new building construction taking place, so the building footprint, the building height, length, width, scale is all existing. So this is basically interior alterations in order to facilitate 2 additional rental dwelling units, and there are no other external changes. There are 2 windows being proposed, and that's why I'm showing the existing south elevation and the proposed south elevation. So you'll see 2 of those window wells being shown for windows along the Yarmouth Road elevation. Otherwise, there are no other changes being proposed. So we've consulted with planning staff, with engineering construction services, transportation services, and see that there's no concerns or objections. I would submit that the application is one that is desirable for the appropriate use and development of the property, results in needed and increased rental accommodation in an area that is well served by existing services, including transit along CHRISTIE Street. And I would submit that there's no unacceptable adverse impacts. So, in my opinion, Mr. Chairman, that the single variance satisfies all 4 tests for a minor variance, and it should be authorized. Subject to any questions, sir, that's my presentation.
Thank you very much. Let's go right to the speaker. Oh, there is a question by Ms. Chen. Go ahead.
Yes, I have read through some of the opposition. One comment came, and I'd like to sort of bring it out, is that the rooftop amenity space, it seems that it's inaccessible by the tenants, and there's a complaint about it, and that's why there's also not has not received support from some of the tenants. I just want to know, is the rooftop private, or is it meant to be for the tenants, including the new units, the tenants of new units?
Thank you for that question, through you, Mr. Chairman. The rooftop on this property has an existing outdoor amenity space, which is a deck format, and it's centrally located on the property, on the building footprint. And that is accessible to everyone, all of the residential units within the building. I read that letter, and it refers to the green roof portion. So the green roof that's on this building was done by the owner. There was no requirement for a green roof, and the green roof is not amenity space. So the green roof is there as a functional component of the building, and it's not meant, it wasn't not designed to be used as lawn space on the subject property. So the amenity space that is accessible to everyone is the existing wood deck, and that's shown on the roof plan, drawing A2.5. I think it's page 6 of my drawing set, so I'm not sure which sheet it is. Yeah, we'll get there.
So,
thank you kindly. There it is. So right where the hand is on the screen, that's where the existing wood deck is, and then you'll see the surrounding area is all existing green roof.
okay, so they can actually go in through some the mezzanine.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So they can use that part, right? Where's the green roof you're talking about?
It runs along that entire CHRISTIE side of the building, and it's also, it loops around. It's almost like an H shaped.
Oh, I see. That's
the
somewhere
verticals.
that they cannot use. That's not meant to be amenity space.
It's not meant to be used as amenity space. No, it's a functional live portion of the building, and it's engineered to be vegetation, not amenity space.
Okay, thank you so much. So how come the tenants did not were not told that it's not it's not accessible by anyone? They said that it seems that it's not, the rooftop is locked up, and it's only seemed to be the family of the building owners using it only. That's something concerns me only because if we're adding more units, I think the amenity space should be provided, shared by everyone.
Well, that outdoor deck space is accessible to everyone. I've confirmed with the owners that it is accessible, so I don't believe that the statement that it is inaccessible to tenants is accurate. And there is no, you'll see that the single variance here does not trigger any sort of amenity space requirement. So the indoor and outdoor amenity space that's required for the number of residential units that are being proposed here is in excess of what is required.
Okay,
what's being provided is in excess of what is required under the zoning bylaws.
Yeah, I trust your answer. That's the case. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Let's go to the registered speaker.
Alex Bozikovic, you can go ahead. You've been unmuted.
Good morning.
Hello, can you hear me?
Very well.
Excellent, thanks so much. Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you this morning.
Please state your name.
Sorry, it's Alex Bozikovic. I'm a neighbor at 42B Yarmouth Road.
Thank you, Alex, for joining us. You have 5 minutes to bring up your concerns to the panel.
Thank you. I'm here to echo some comments made by the Sydney Village Residents Association through that letter from Jared Gordon, which requests a refusal or deferral of this variance, and also to add some context. Have you received that letter? I believe you have. So just to summarize,
yeah,
let's
just
SVR.
Go ahead with your concerns,
Chair,
please.
did we have that letter with our package? I don't have the letter. I know.
Yeah, I think we're looking at it now.
Oh.
We're looking at it now. So just to summarize, there have been a number of different issues with this building since it was first approved. A few of which, though not all of them, are covered by this letter from the Residents Association. These comments have to do with, I think, the storage of the building's waste outside, rather than the designated garbage room, with parking, and with changes to the doors and windows and other physical aspects of the building and landscape. So the requested variance would give permission for 2 new apartments to be added to this building in the basement. But the plan relies in part on 2 existing basement window wells, which are on the drawings that you've seen in the submission, and it proposes 2 new window wells. But as the letter from Jared Gordon points out, those 2 original window wells have never been approved. In the drawings that were approved for building permit and site plan approval, those window wells are not shown. One of them is roughly 1.5 meters away from what is now the stump of a large mature maple tree. That window was dug during construction inside the tree protection zone that was shown on the permit drawings in 2013. And soon after that window well was dug, the tree died. It hasn't been replaced. So it seems clear to me that the applicants created those window wells without permission, with the intention of later getting approval to create these apartments in the basement, which is the issue of the variance you have before you today. So there are a couple of, this forms part of a pattern with this project. There are 2 other things, significant changes to the building that they have either attempted to legalize or legalize after the fact. One was for the garbage room. The building has a designated garbage room facing Christie Street, but in fact, the owners of the building, who live there as well, have been storing all the building's waste outside. That's been the case since the building was first constructed, and the garbage room has never been used. A few years ago, they put out a for lease sign in that space, attempting to lease it out as commercial. That didn't happen, I think, because because either planning or by law enforcement stepped in, but to this day that room still remains empty. I would strongly suspect that it's their intention to at some point try and legalize that, and as they're doing with these apartments, get after the fact permission for adding another unit and more leasable space that was not originally approved. There's also the parking. This building already received a variance in 2018, I believe, after the fact, to eliminate parking stackers, which had been required in the site plan and which had never been built. There was one letter of support for that variance, arguing that there was no need for the required parking. That letter was signed by Karen Connolly. Likewise today, there is one letter of support for the variance before you that's also signed by Karen Connolly. Excuse me. And for the record, Karen Connolly is the wife of Robert Chang, who is the architect of this building and the architect for today's variance as well. The applicants also constructed Mr. Chang and Ms. Connolly's house. So I would suggest that her views on a previous variance and on this one may not be entirely reliable. So I think it's clear that there's going to be more intensification in our neighborhood. It seems pretty clear that the official plan calls for that. And in fact, there is a rezoning application process right now for a building larger than this one, just up the block. So I think more than anything else, I'm concerned about the message that's being sent here today. I think it's important in cases like this, where a rezoning or a variance is requested, that the applicants respect the terms of their agreements with the city, including the site plan agreement, and build what they have permission to build. With this building, in a number of ways, that hasn't happened. And if you were to approve the variance as is, you would be sending a signal that that is acceptable. So respectfully, I would ask that you defer this at least until all of the issues brought up by the Residents Association have been resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this speaker panel? Hearing none, we'll go back to the applicant for rebuttal. I should mention that some of the issues raised by the speaker are enforcement type issues which are not within the mandate of the Committee of Adjustment, but I will ask for comment from the agent on the following things. If you can comment upon waste storage, whether it is stored inside or outside. Any comments on parking and issue of a window well having led to the loss of a tree. Go ahead, applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So in terms of waste storage, there is a dedicated waste room, and it's located at the northwest corner of on the ground floor of this building. And there are also waste bins that are tucked in beside the parking underneath the building. So it's not outside, it's enclosed on three sides, I suppose, because the east side of the site has got a driveway, and that driveway accesses the parking tucked in underneath the building, and that is also where a few of the waste bins, those rollout bins, are located. So I would not couch the outdoor storage of waste as being an item that's been occurring on the subject site. Again, we've confirmed with engineering, construction services, transportation, and planning staff that all of that is acceptable. In terms of parking, there's no parking variance that arises, and actually the parking utilization on this site is less than what currently is being provided on the site. There is no parking variance, and indeed the city is actually using one of the spaces that was open to the general public on Yarmouth Road right next to the building as a car sharing space. That was part of a city initiative citywide. So there's no parking issue or concern. And the window wells, there are two existing window wells. They're shown on the drawings. One is on the south side nearest to CHRISTIE Street, and one is on the east side, abutting the driveway or the laneway that's in between the mixed-use building and the duplexes to the east. So not aware that those are in contravention of anything. And certainly when the building was constructed, Urban Forestry would have issued permits for any tree impacts, and there are some new trees that have been planted along CHRISTIE Street as part of the development of the subject site. And I also note that urban forestry is seeking condition number 1 on this application today. So I would submit, Mr. Chairman, that those 3 items might be items of concern that may be a little differently constituted on the subject site than has been explained or described in the correspondence or by the previous speaker.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant, Ms. Valentini?
Thank you, Mr. Romano. So did you say that the parking stackers are there? They're there? In compliance with the prior decision?
The parking stackers were not constructed, and the previous variances removed the parking stackers. So then there's just the surface parking. So the surface parking is there. The parking stackers are not there.
But did the previous decision not require 9 parking spaces? Oh, I see. It required 5 parking spaces.
Correct.
Inclusive.
Yeah.
Okay, I misread that decision. I thought you required 9. Okay, so then you're in compliance with the prior decision for the parking. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
And then in terms of, I think I heard you said that the parking is being underutilized. So are the spaces not being used by the residents? There's plenty of parking?
They are not completely being utilized on a daily basis, correct?
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clear the parking up.
Okay, panel. Hearing no further questions, I'll look to panel for, well, we can take it into committee if you'd like to discuss it, and we can move to a motion, please. We'll go into committee. Any thoughts on the application, panel members?
Oh, I can start with some thoughts. Actually, it's only one variance in front of us, and unfortunately, I think that a lot of the current problems really has to do with the operational of the building, about garbage and also about how they handle other things that's really outside our jurisdiction or mandate. So I think adding 2 rental units in our existing structure is actually a good thing to the housing stock. And I have, unfortunately, there's the existing issues that's why they bring on all these decisions. But in terms of the application, I'm in support of it with the forestry condition number 1. But I'll listen to other members' comments.
Thank you. Other comments, Ms. Valentini?
I agree with what Ms. Chen has said. I'm in support of the application as well, and I think it is a good use of adding extra units in the pre-existing building. We don't have any variances. I mean, the units obviously are of a good size, and there doesn't seem to be, based on the availability of parking and transit, any parking issues that arise. Those are the things we tend to look at when we're adding more units. So I'm in support of the application as well.
Thank you. Mr. Chang?
I agree with both my colleagues, and unfortunately, even if the opposition is correct that the building was not managed properly, that wouldn't be wouldn't affect our decision on adding this GFA unit. So I will support a motion to allow this variance to be approved.
Thank you. And for my part, the one variance that we are dealing with, I believe it meets the 4 tests, so I will be supporting the application. So I look to panel for a motion, please. Ms. Chang?
Yes. So I move for a motion for approval with subject to forestry condition number 1.
Thank you. And the second to that motion, is there one? There is a second, Mr. Chang. So moved and seconded to approve, subject to forestry. Those in favor? Motion carried unanimously, and the application is approved. Panel moves along to item number 4. 338 Shaw Street. And on 338 Shaw, we do have some recently arrived correspondence. 30th September from 60 Harrison Street, Maria da Silva, and also a 9-signature petition from owners and occupants on Harrison and Shaw, received 30 September. Also before us are the applicant's materials, a survey of interest conducted by the applicants on Shaw and Harrison. There is email from community planning, city planning, and there is a staff report from engineering and construction. And in opposition, we have further correspondence from Elizabeth and Frank Fernandez, 340 Shaw. So, let's have the agent join us, please.
Hello, it's David Riley from SGL Planning and Design, address 1547 Bloor Street West.
Good morning, David. David, you have 5 minutes to make your presentation to the panel. Go ahead, please.
That's great, thank you. And before beginning, I just want to make sure that the panel has a set of drawings that was actually submitted yesterday with an updated zoning review. And that looks like the right one. Thank you very much. Perfect.
Okay, just a second, David. David, so we do have them put up on the screen, do we? Yeah.
Yes, looks like it.
Okay, so panel, we don't have these, but they will be on the screen for you to look at. Go ahead,
David.
David.
Thank you. So this is a proposal to alter the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling, which contains 3 units, by adding a secondary suite to that dwelling, and also to convert the existing 1-story detached garage into a 2-story detached garage with a laneway suite on the 2nd floor. So with respect to the main dwelling and the additional secondary suite within the main dwelling, there's no variances required. So all of the variances we're looking at today are related to the laneway suite. And so before just getting into it, just wanted to point out that the owner has submitted a record of his discussions with neighbors. And I understand that many of the neighbors that the owner was able to speak with are supportive of the proposal. Also, the owner and the architect have worked closely with city staff to refine the proposal from the initial submission to where we're at today to the city's satisfaction. And also, just wanted to note that the laneway suite would meet all of the requirements for fire and safety access. I heard that as a discussion item in one of the previous items, so just wanted to bring that up. So on the updated drawings, they've been prepared to address some of those concerns that have been raised by some of the neighbors. And we were able to just get yesterday this updated zoning review, which is great. And what it has the effect of doing is just changing one variance. And it's a slight increase in soft landscaping. So it's variance number 1. So we're asking in the public notice from 51% and 32.18 square meters. That actually changes to 51.97% and 32.79 square meters. So that's the only change to the variances from the revisions that I'll be going over with you. But I just wanted to point out that the soft landscaping, albeit a small amount, has gone up.
Okay, just hold on there for a moment. We'll make sure that staff have captured those. But we do have them, and both of those revisions make the application less onerous, so they're okay. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. So the revisions that we made to these concerns that were raised, which were primarily related to massing, there were some concerns also about density and that, but also mostly related to massing. And so if you could go to drawing SK15 from the most recent drawing package. So SK15 is an elevation, and it's the southern elevation. So we're looking at the side of the laneway suite and existing garage. And so as you can see on the west side, which is the left, and on the right side, the roof line has been tapered to at a 45-degree angle, and this was to mitigate that kind of massing concern that was raised. As I'll note later, there's no variant. This doesn't trigger any variance. It was just really done to help mitigate some of those massing concerns. We've also taken over, you can see there's a little veranda there on the second floor, a door leading to a little balcony. There was originally a roof proposed over that, which has proposed to be removed. The second floor, if you look at the far right of the drawing, there's kind of an area where the roof comes down before, and then a further one. That's because there's a jog in the laneway suite. So the furthest extent of the laneway suite that you can see to the right is cantilevered over a portion of the lower floor that's not there today. So it's the lower portion of the floor you can see is there on the southern half of the laneway suite. That's why we can see it here. But if we go to, I believe it's the previous elevation, you can see, oh, well, there's a wall there. You can't really see it there, but it's a cantilevered portion over that portion of the laneway suite. So from the northern property line, if you go to SK12, so SK12, so we're looking at the bottom left corner here, that's facing the house. You can see we've added a jog there on the second floor to increase the setback from the northern property line to 2 feet, whereas before it was squared off. So just wanted to move that mass away there. And we've also moved the garbage area. It originally was proposed against the north property line, so we moved it along the under the cantilevered portion, so it's not adjacent to the northern property anymore. And then, of course, the increase to the landscaping, it's because of a walkway that's been reduced in width. Because the garbage moved, we were able to reduce that width, and it had slightly increased the soft landscaping. So again, no changes to the variances other than that improvement to the soft landscaping. So just quickly, if you go to drawing SK2A, SK2A shows a comparison of the soft landscaping variance from the existing.
I'll have to ask you to make your final comment now, please.
Okay, great. Anyways, improvement over from the existing condition to the what we're proposing now. And then just because I'm making my final comment now, I just wanted to bring up the laneway suite is set back 7.34 meters from the main dwelling. You can see that because there's a jog in the existing garage. And that's because there's an existing portion of the main dwelling, a 1-story, that projects closer to the laneway suite.
Your time is up. Your time is up.
Okay. Okay. Happy to answer questions.
Question from Ms. Cheng and then Ms. Valentini.
Great.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I did not follow the number of the drawings, but it's on the elevations, on the side elevations. There's the first elevation you saw that the height of the laneway suite. I know that the different heights that it depends on where you measure it from. It's the side elevation, yeah. The one that you have to rotate back to straight. It says 6 meters, and then of course this. It depends where you measure it from, and what you're asking is variance number 5 is 5.56. Where is the 6 and where is the actual height that is counted for the variance? You know.
Yeah. So the laneway suite, the entire height of the laneway suite is 5.56. You can see it there pointed on the screen.
Yeah, but then there's another drawing that says 6. That's another elevation, the other one that it says 6 side elevation, not the, yeah, that one, and also the side elevation says 6 from the garage slab. And I'm not too, you see, I just thought that it's a little bit confusing as to say the 5.6 from, is it from the established?
It's measured from the average grade. So there's dimensions shown from, I believe, the grade at the laneway.
Oh, I can see
just to provide that. Okay. Yeah, because it slopes back towards the laneway, but the measurement is actually from the average grade. So that's where the 5.56 number comes from. And
that's enough for you? That's exactly what you're asking for, right?
Exactly, yeah. And so the reason we need a variance is because, as I was mentioning, that portion of the laneway suite, there's only 16 centimeters of the southern half of the laneway suite is actually located with less than 7.5 meters away, and so that triggers the variance for height. So the maximum height is 4 meters, although in reality, the whole laneway suite is at 7.5, except for those 16 centimeters, and that's an existing condition. To mitigate that, we've actually brought down the height of that portion of the building along the required 45-degree angular plane, measured from the 7.5 meter setback that would ultimately implement that intent of the bylaw. So we were recognizing that, okay, we are a little bit closer. Let's bring the roof down according to the 45-degree angular plane, so that, and we still need a variance for that because technically we're less than 7.5 meters, but we're following the plane.
Yeah, understand. And the minor question is about, is on the engineering staff report. The date is October 5th, 2020. I just want to make sure whether it's only a typo or whether it is an old report that is still valid. Yes. If you look at the date, it's October 5th, 2020. It's a year old. It should be just the same, right? I'm just asking.
Yeah,
if it's a
I believe
typo.
that's the same. This is a report that was that's been around for a while now. Just based on the processing of the application, it wasn't yesterday.
So it's okay that all the conditions you're okay with these conditions, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Valentini?
Hi, thank you. One further question in terms of staff reports. There was an email from planning that requested that the laneway suite should be at least 7.5 meters away from the main dwelling. And I noticed we still have the variance before us, and it's not, for 7.34. Is that an issue for planning? You said you've been working with planning on that, so I was a little confused by that.
Yes, so it's my understanding that planning is okay now, because what was originally proposed, we didn't have that slope down to 45, the angular plane past that 7.5 meter line,
Okay.
and it goes all the way past to the 7.34. And
Okay,
again,
so you're saying, oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry to cut you off.
No, I cut you off, so go ahead, please.
And so, yeah, I was just gonna say, we're really dealing with that existing garage being located there. And although, yes, that second story is lining up with that 7.34, it's important to note that that portion of the laneway suite is going to be sloped away. So we wanted to just have that carry the intent of the bylaw forward, recognizing that we can't really change the 7.5, but we do think it warrants that height that we're proposing, because we're except for that small portion, we're beyond 7.5 for the rest of the laneway suite, so we should be at 6. However,
I see.
We
Okay.
do really want to make sure that we take care of the massing, and so that's why we trigger a few variances, a little bit of a technicality, but I think that it's important to consider how they're implemented, and I think we've done a good job at trying to meet those requirements.
Okay, and I think that ties into my second question, because I got a little confused about you saying you're 16 centimeters over, I believe, and that's why, okay, so now you're saying if you were 7.5 meters away, you could have a 6 meter high.
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
In terms of height, again, I got confused, and Ms. Chan had brought that up, and I'm sure we'll hear, I don't know who's on the phone to speak, but the neighbor at 60 Harrison is concerned about light being blocked, because this is, sort of a corner lot almost situation in terms of the laneway suite will be abutting, rather than backyard to backyard, it's going to be abutting the side of their house. So, but you're telling me if it wasn't for the 16 centimeters, you would require a height variance? Am I understanding that correctly?
That's correct. Yeah. So we're at 5.56, particularly where this condition, this western condition that we're talking about, that's well beyond that 7.5 meters. But we've really attempted to look at that issue, to also add that 45-degree angle on the roof there, so that we further mitigated the impact to the west, but also just recognizing that because we're located east, I don't believe that it would be a shadow concern in terms of light, because of the way that the sun would rotate around the property. Also, we're not adjacent to the rear yard here. We're adjacent to the dwelling itself of 60 Harrison. So I believe that in terms of design, we've mitigated the impacts as much as possible. And the reason we're cantilevering over a little bit on that top second story by 0.5 meters is because of the configuration of where you have the stairs coming up. And if you want to have a little bit of a walk or an external patio, we have a little square at the southwest corner. You need room for a door, and also just the internal configuration. And given that both accessory structures to the north and south are built pretty much right to the property line, so protruding beyond where we're going to be, even at the second floor, we thought, okay, well, there's really no impact of this, and at least we're maintaining that 1.5 at the ground level. So we've really tried to, understand the intent of the bylaw, but recognize that, oh, we have a situation here that we need to work with, but let's try to address all those matters.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then at this stage, we'll go to Elizabeth Fernandez, who, moderator, I believe is standing by. We'll ask her to join us by stating her name, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Fernandez, and I reside at 340 Shaw Street, directly to the north of the subject property. I'm not sure if you guys have our outline of submission. I'm just going to pinpoint a few things on it. Thank you again for allowing us to speak in this manner. As we have outlined in our submission, our family's concerns with the proposed laneway suite are specific and are of great concern to us. Namely, with regards to the increased density, the loss of privacy, increased amounts of garbage, location of garbage, increase in foot traffic, increase in noise from more occupants in the property, and more importantly to us, the shading and the sunlight blockage over our yard. We only received the notice of the proposed laneway suite on September the 26th. In addition to that, we submitted our concerns to the committee. We have had conversations with the neighbor, the applicant, over the last week to try to address some of these concerns. While some effort was made by relocating the proposed garbage site and adding fencing between our property and the subject property, a major issue still remains is the sheer size, the height adjacent to our yard, and the location of the proposed second floor extension. I know it was noted just recently that he stated that he has on the south side that there was a slope that was put in, or some type of angular plane. It does not exist on the north side, not at the same level. And so I wanted to make that clear from as far as what Jonathan has showed in his plans to us as well. The mass and the bulk and the height of the proposed laneway suite will cast like a significant shadow and negatively impact our airflow directly over where we have the own unshaded area of our yard and over our family's vegetable garden. Now, our backyard is not only like a home to our garden, but to a 75-year-old grapevine that's been tended to by my grandparents and my parents for decades. And we've lived at this property for nearly 65 years, and we don't want to lose the enjoyment of our own yard, nor our garden. The proposed structure is not going to only be higher than allowed for laneway suites, but it also extends out from the second floor, as stated, beyond the existing garage footprint. This will block our light precisely at the only place we can enjoy sunshine in our backyard. We obtained a third-party assessment with Morgan Solar using the GIS data to help quantify the shade cast over our property. Now, the average solar energy loss will be more than 30% over the entire year. In fact, in the most important months for shade calculations, March and September, the loss is going to be greater than 50% as a result of the proposed build. Clearly, the proposed proposal does not meet the letter of bylaws, nor their general intent and purpose for laneway housing in Toronto. More specifically, and what is impacting us the most and our family are the requested variances of 3, 4, and 5, and in the submitted drawings SK9, SK12, and 14. The proposed squaring off of the original garage footprint by 1.54 meters on the ground level, and the second floor on our north side extending 2.54 meters on the northeast side at a height of 5.56 meters without the required 45-degree angular plane at 4 meters will impose extreme shading and shadowing and a reduction in airflow over our yard. We ask that the committee take into consideration our concerns, review the laneway street plans as submitted, and we ask that the proposed plans comply with the city bylaws. As we have stated in our submission, bringing more housing to the city is a positive development. However, it should not be at the expense of the use and enjoyment of the current long-term residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Elizabeth? Panel. Seeing none, we'll go back to the applicant. And applicant, the specific things, you would have read Elizabeth's very detailed letter, and she has just given us key points of that. In particular, she mentions variances 3, variance 4 regarding the angular plane, and variance 5 regarding your height variance. So I'll ask you to comment on those ones, which I think in her mind are the ones which have the largest impact on her family's enjoyment of their property next door. Go ahead, please.
Certainly, thank you. And so just a couple points of clarification. The northern part of the laneway suite, which is adjacent to 340 Shaw, is actually not subject to that requirement for the 45-degree angular plane, because the portion of the main dwelling is actually located almost 9 meters away at that point. And so we're well beyond that 7.5 meters where the angular plane kicks in. However, with that said, I did want to correct one point where we did actually make a change to the cantilevered portion here. And if you go down to SK12, please, we actually brought in the line of the cantilever from the northern property line. You can see there by point, I believe 0.61 meters. So that's just over 2 feet. And also the portion over that cantilevered will have an angled wall, even though not required. That's one of the mitigating ways. So if you go to the SK, let's say SK14, this is the north elevation. And so you can see where that bubble is. That's the change that was made. So you can see that we are angling the roof there just to help mitigate that impact. And that angle is actually set back 2 meters from the property line, or 2 feet from the property line, 0.61. So that was one of the ways that we wanted to really help to mitigate that impact in terms of massing. So just wanted to clarify, the angular plane doesn't actually apply here. It could go straight up. However, because we're well beyond the 7.5 meters of this portion of the laneway suite. However, we did want to mitigate the impact. So that's my response to that.
Thank you very much. Panel, are there any final questions for the applicant? Or can we take this Oh, there is from Ms. Valentini. Go ahead.
I just wanted to confirm the cantilevered portion is facing the lane. Is that correct?
There's two. So there's a cantilevered portion facing the lane by 0.5 meters, but there's also a cantilevered portion over the portion of the existing garage that has the little cutout. And that's the portion that we've stepped back from the north property line and have introduced, well, also on both cantilevers, the 45-degree roof to help mitigate the impact there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then at this stage, we can take this application into committee. We can go straight to a motion if you're ready, or discussion if you'd prefer. So, panel? Anyone ready for a motion?
Maybe I can start. I can hear the oppositions, but I do not think that the concern about cutting off natural light or casting a big shadow. I'm not too sure that's true, because if the house is set up 7.5, they can build to 6 meters. Anyways, as that's right. And when I look through all these variances, I think the applicants will try to mitigate any kind of negative impact. and with also they increase the sort of landscaping, and I'm in support of it because I think that it meets with very closely to the bylaw, and the variance considered to be minor, in my view.
Thank you. Ms. Valentini?
If I could just add on to that, I agree with everything Ms. Chan has said. And initially, I was concerned about the height variance, to be honest, and the impact it would have on the neighbor, both adjacent neighbors and the neighbor at 60 Harrison. But I was interested, and I think Mr. Riley made a very good point in that if this application had met the 7.5 meter setback, that they would have been allowed at 6 meters in any event. And there's only a small portion of the building that doesn't. So for me, I think that really emphasizes the fact that it is minor in nature in terms of the variance requested for height. So I'm satisfied with that. I think that was a very good point that he had raised. It's a very technical issue, but I think it's a good point. As well, I think that some thought has gone into tweaking the elevation so that any impact, if any, would be mitigated further on the adjacent neighbor at I believe it was 340 Shaw. So I'm in support. I think it would be helpful to tie if any motion that's happening be tied to plans. That I don't have the updated plans before me, but the ones that were shown, at least the elevation, so that all of the changes can be captured in terms of building envelope, because they're not necessarily captured in the variances themselves.
You're right. I actually was going to say that. I said we would tie to actually all the revised plans submitted just yesterday, drawings.
That sounds good to me.
Okay, Mr.
Same
Chen.
here. I agree with both of them, and please, include that clause to all those plans and drawings to be combined with the approval, because the way the design and the numbers are working hand in hand together. If the plans look differently, those effect might be very different.
And with what I've heard, I'm persuaded that the application does meet the 4 tests. So I'll look to panel for a motion, please. Ms. Chen.
Okay, I'll put a motion forth for approval, subject to the engineering conditions, and also the approval tied to the revised drawing submitted October 5th, 2021. And also the amended variance number 1.
Very good. Okay. Second to that motion, there is Ms. Valentini. All in favor? And unanimous vote to carry that motion and to approve the application as worded. With that, panel moves on to number 5. 327 Roncesvalles. And on 327 Roncesvalles, we are dealing with applicant's materials. We have commenting reports from transportation and also from strategic initiatives policy and analysis, Toronto and East York. There is correspondence in support in the form of 6 letters from 358, 126, 219, 223, 225, and 229 Roncesvalles, and 358 Sunnyside, and also 178 Wright. And correspondence in opposition or concern from 327 Roncesvalles from John Montez. So there we are, and moderator, we do have one speaker standing by.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have the applicant. That's Pablo Turco, has been unmuted.
And one speaker.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Please state your name.
My name is Pablo Turco, 10 Plastics Avenue, Toronto, and I'm the applicant for this proposal.
Okay, Pablo, you have as much as 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a mixed-use building in a very dense area, Roncesvalles and just south of Bloor. Building is underutilized, and there's a big demand for rental apartment units in the area. So the proposal is for a partial third story with 2 additional apartment units, bringing the total to 7. The variances in front of the committee are all originated by existing conditions. They're technical, and all of them, in my opinion, pass the four tests. There's a support from a great number of the neighbors. That letter of concern is from the tenant, who is concerned in advance of construction noise, so it's not technically an opposition. We've worked closely with the heritage preservation and planning, has gone through a few rounds of revisions to their satisfaction. All of them are satisfied. I think there's a letter on file from heritage that there's no concern with it, and same for planning. And I'm respectfully ask for a committee to grant the approval.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, let's see if we have the speaker who's listed with us.
Hi, I'm here.
Is that Vlada?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Vlada, please state your full name and you're with us.
Yeah, hi, good morning. My name is Vlada Bilyak. I live at 125A Grenadier Road, which is the residential address of the proposals building.
Okay, you have 5 minutes to address your concerns to the panel. Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much. So I'm the current tenant of the building. I live directly below the proposed 3rd story. I love this apartment, it's my home. I'll start by saying that as a current tenant of the building, I was quite surprised and upset that none of the tenants were informed of this proposal, despite being the most impacted if this proposal is approved. I personally found out about this proposal through the sign in the window of the restaurant below us. And if the applicant has an obligation to inform people walking down the street, why not communicate this to the tenants that are being intimately affected by this? My main concern is how the current tenants will be impacted by the construction. On pages 4 and 5 of the plans PDF in the supporting documentation, it shows that units 1A and 2C have quote unquote no changes to the units. But what exactly does that mean for the remaining 3 units? Will the changes, presumably to build the stairs, though I imagine there are also plumbing, hot water, etc. Needs there, will those changes necessitate the tenants being displaced for some time? How will those of us most impacted by this construction be accommodated? I'm sure you can all appreciate how concerning it is to happen across this poster and see these blueprints on a website that is very confusing to navigate with no added information for us. I'm also concerned about our reasonable enjoyment of the units during this proposed construction. Most of us work from home. Will that be possible with the construction noise? My unit is actually directly beside the building that I think is having the exact same construction right now. They're building a 3rd story. So we have construction noise next door to us every morning at 6 a.m., weekdays, weekends, stat holidays. It's a major disruption. It wakes us up every single day. With all of this, I asked the committee to defer this proposal until there's a plan for how displaced tenants will be accommodated, and this plan is communicated to us tenants who have been kept in the dark about this entire proposal thus far. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this speaker panel? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go back to the applicant. And applicant, issues raised are primarily of a construction nature, but I'll ask your comments on them anyway because the speaker is listening. Concern as to whether or not anyone will be asked to leave their apartment for any amount of time in order to allow construction, and also concern about construction noise and how it would impact those who work from home. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, just 1 minute, please.
Displaced. The construction
Pablo?
will be carried out there will be a
Excuse
phased
me, Pablo?
plan. There will be lots of hoarding and health and safety protection, and he'll
Pablo?
try to mitigate the noise to the bare minimum.
Pablo, excuse me.
Sorry.
Can you restart,
yes.
please? You've just been unmuted.
Okay.
Thank
yeah,
you.
restarting.
Start from the restart.
Can everybody hear me?
Now we do. Go ahead.
Yes, in discussion with the owner of the building, this matter came up, and I was told that yes, we agreed that the construction is disruptive, and it's. But I was assured that none of the tenants will be displaced. There will be a phasing and hoarding plan in place, and with all the health and safety protection, including COVID measures as well. So the answer is short is they'll try to mitigate the construction inconvenience to the bare minimum, and none of the tenants will be displaced from their units. As far as the notices to the tenants, other tenants are aware of the proposal. I'm not sure how this process actually went down, but I know that the tenants were appalled on this proposal, and if this proposal, missed the speaker, I apologize. So we can send her drawings separately just to have a better look at it.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just add for Vlada, if she's still listening, that Vlada, just for your information, the Committee of Adjustment deals with the variances, and that's all that we're really mandated to do. If this were to be approved, and if you had concerns about abnormal or excessive noise, then during construction you could bring those to the City Building Department. But the committee is just this morning dealing with the variances that are proposed and determining whether or not they meet or do not meet the four tests. Okay, thank you. All right, panel members, any questions for the applicant at this stage? Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Something I think the applicant said, because I did note on our materials that this is a listed building, and I don't have anything before me that says Heritage is okay with it, but I think, is there anything in the file that we didn't get? And I didn't see anything from planning as well, but I believe the applicant said that both had provided something in writing saying they're okay. Is that correct?
Pablo, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
Yes, there's a letter from planning on file. It's one sentence saying that there are no comments. And then there's an email which I was copied on from Heritage to the Committee of Adjustment staff saying the same sentence. Heritage has no comments to this file.
Okay, we don't have that. I don't have that in my material, so thank you. It was one of the questions because I noted it's a listed building. So, thank you.
All right then, panel. Are we ready to move to a motion? Ms. Chan.
Yeah, I can start with some comments, and I look at it, and then with a corner lot, and I think that it can accommodate this increase in density. And I look at the plans, and I think these are well-designed units. It's very comfortable size with a lot of exposure, net windows, and a lot of these conditions really triggered by the existing building, and then I'm in support of the proposal. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Welcome for other people.
Other thoughts on the application panel? No? In that case, I could say that I'll be able to support this application. If there's a motion to that effect, is anyone ready with a motion? Either way. Ms. Chan, go ahead. Go ahead, Ms. Chan.
In that case, I will move for approval. Can you remind me, are there any conditions? I do not have no notes on. Yes. Doesn't look like there's any condition. Okay. Just for approval.
Very, very good. Second to that. Ms. Valentini. Moved and seconded. Approval. Those in favor? And the motion is carried. Application approved without condition. The committee moves on, and we go to number 6, 194.
Through you,
Hudson.
Mr. Chair, this item has been deferred, so we will move on to item number 7.
So we shall. We are deferred, so we're moving on to 7 panel. Thank you. Number 7 is 2134 Dundas Street, West. Before the panel, we have only applicant's materials and 2 form letters supporting 2138 and 2132 Dundas West. So let's ask the applicant to join us, please.
Hi, my name is Mike D'Oliveira. I'm here representing 2134 Dundas Street West, and I'm with Replacement Design, located at 911 Davenport Road.
Good morning, Mike. I'm going to check Mike with panel members and see whether they'd like presentation or whether they have any questions for you. Any questions for Mike, panel? Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Just can you please speak to there's a ask for quite a large rooftop deck, a variance for that in terms of size. I'm wondering in terms of impact, what kind of impact that will have. I mean, I know this is located around Dundas, but can you speak to if there be any impact on surrounding neighbors, please?
Yeah, so our client has spoken to the surrounding neighbors. None of them raised any concerns. They showed them the drawings, and they are aware of the 3rd floor addition with the deck. And the point of the deck is really to give an outdoor space for the upper unit. The way we've arranged these apartments are really to give each space their own outdoor area they can enjoy. So with the main unit being the 2nd, 3rd floor, that 3rd floor balcony 3rd floor rooftop deck does give them their own space to enjoy while leaving the rear yard and front yard for those lower tenants.
Does that large deck cause any overlook issues with properties on the other side?
None of them have raised any concerns about the overlook of the deck. Moving forward, if they do have any issues, our clients are willing to put up privacy screening, but in the meantime, nothing's been raised.
If I could just kind of jump in and ask about that further. I'm noticing, I'm just sort of looking at the surrounding area, and I believe at Golden Avenue, is there like another, I don't know if they have rear yard space or if that's another apartment building that directly abuts the rear of this property. Can you explain how that layout is? Like, I don't think it overlooks any backyards per se, but I could be wrong.
You're wondering what the use of the building is behind?
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's an apartment building, but I don't know.
Yes, I believe so. I'm just confirming here right now. My notes. Sorry, just give me one moment. Yeah, so it is another home similar to ours. I believe they have multi-units, but I can't confirm that for sure. But our home doesn't necessarily look into their rear yard, so yeah, it's just looking to the side of their building.
Yeah, it looks like, based on the aerial view, it looks like it's just a long building, and there's not really, and then there's a laneway. There's not it doesn't look like there's overlook onto rear yards, generally speaking, from your property. Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. But thank you. Yep.
Panel then, if there are no further questions of the applicant, can we advance to a motion? Ms. Valentini.
My initial concern, I don't know how my colleagues feel, but my initial concern was the size of the large deck and overlook. We often have that issue or concern when there are very large decks proposed. But I think I am satisfied, given that there are no neighbors that have made any comments on the application, and it looks like the rear neighbor is. It doesn't look like there's any overlook over any backyards. So I am satisfied that the proposal will not have any, in terms of what's before us, any adverse impact on neighbors, and I'm in support of the application. I'm happy to bring a motion, but
Please.
I don't know if my colleagues want to jump in and add anything else.
Lisa, I will second your motion, and then I do agree that the main concern was mine too about the deck, and then now I understand it's being also for the tenants, and I'm okay with that. And I do not see any other things that stand out that I object. I will second your motion.
Okay. It is moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show of hands. Motion carried, and the application is approved. Thank you. Panel moves along to number 8, item 444, Arlington Ave. And on this application before us are the following materials: applicant's materials, photographs submitted by the agent, cover letter from the agent, various email correspondence from the agent dating back to June, email correspondence between Lori Greenspan and Matthew Clark, Matthew Clark of 446, dating to September, presentation materials by the agent from 29 September. There is a commenting report from community planning, and there is a staff report from community planning, and there is correspondence in support signed by the owners or occupants of 411, 427, 430, 433, 440, and 442 Arlington, plus 639 Rushton, all of that received before September 29. Also on this one we have one photograph of the subject property received October the 1st, and a cover letter from the agent received 30 September. Okay. Let's ask the agent to join us, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, can you hear me?
We do.
Great. And, good morning. My name is Stephen Kirschenblatt. I'm an architect and the agent representing Lori and Ari Greenspan, the owners of this property. The Greenspans bought the property about 2 years ago. They have 2 young kids. They love the neighborhood, and they would love to improve the house for a growing family. So the application before you is to put a 2-story rear yard addition at the rear. There is an enclosure of the 1-story covered porch at the front and a partial 3rd floor addition on top. I wrote in that letter I gave you, I described each of the variances. I could explain more, but I didn't want to take your time. But I think the problem here was really to deploy available floor area. The zoning on this site allows for 80% floor space index. The proposal is at 70%. So it's really a matter of how you could position this floor area that they have as of right. So the rear yard addition, we believe, is in keeping with length of the house because the building is set back, more than the front yard setback. The front yard setback, as defined by the zoning, brings that front yard setback way ahead of the house. In fact, it sort of goes through partially. If you can bring up the site plan drawing, a lot of the variances flow from that. The fact that the Arlington Avenue is on a curve and the setback is a curved line slices through partially the covered porch. So this covered porch at the front has a finished lower level underneath it and a roof above it, and the proposal is to enclose most of that covered area to create a larger living room at the front of the house. And the rear addition, if you measure from the existing main front wall of the house to the rear, is less than 17 meters, which is sort of the typical length and depth of house. So we believe, both our neighbors at 442 and 446, if they were to add an addition to the rear of their homes, they would be entitled to the same length, within, as if you were measuring from the main front wall 17 meters back as per the bylaw. But because the blue line on the drawing in front of you shows that curving required front yard setback ahead of the buildings, it's really pushed the buildings back. The lots are quite deep. They're over 150 feet, 45 to 47 meters deep. And the rear yard that we proposed up against the public lane is 21 meters. So the length of the house we think is appropriate. And another bylaw that we've asked for on the side yard, the neighbor is set back 0.9 meters. We thought it was appropriate that we could ask for 0.9 setback as well on our south side against him. And that addition is above a right-of-way that we have to the rear. That's in 446 is entitled to. And I think I sent you a picture showing how that right-of-way works. Right now, there are no car access. I don't think there was really any car access through that right-of-way, but it's both properties are served by a public lane at the back for parking purposes. My client actually has permission for a parking pad at the front. So we are maintaining the overhead, the walkability through that at the first level, and asking your permission to extend an extra 0.3 meters beyond what the bylaw would permit over top of that right-of-way. So we think that's a minor. The third floor created an issue with height, but it is, we reviewed that with planning staff. They've come to agreement that it's acceptable, and the third floor is limited in its depth, only to 7.09 meters deep. It doesn't extend the full depth. It's only at the front. It's more or less, it's actually, the rear wall of the third floor is not even as far deep as the neighbor to the north of us. So we feel any shadow or shadow impact is very minor. No views at the back. The rear roof, the two-story roof, is flat, keeping, again, minimizing shadows on the neighbor. And we're not decking it. We're not trying to walk out on it. No variance is required or requested for a deck. So in all, it's just a matter of how we could deploy less area than we're permitted in a reasonable fashion on a narrow, deep lot. The lot is 25 feet, 7.6 meters deep. So the idea to fill in the front a little bit under that covered porch and over top of the existing basement area under the porch, we thought that was appropriate. And then the addition to the rear, we believe, is in keeping with the general intent of the bylaw in terms of the actual depth from the main front wall of the existing house.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you very much. There are questions. Ms. Valentini first, Ms. Chen second.
I think one of my concerns about this application is the request for the side yard setback. There is a right-of-way. You did point out that you're keeping the right-of-way unobstructed on ground level. I don't know if it, how high up the right-of-way applies, but I'm looking at the plans and I don't really see why, in terms of why you need that extra space. I mean, the neighbor obviously has an issue with the encroachment over the right-of-way, and I can understand why. So can you explain to me why it's necessary to do that? Based on the plans, I don't really get it. This seems to fall within closets and closet space and takes away a small amount of width from your client's request for the extra length on their addition. So is there a reason why this is absolutely necessary? Because I have concerns about the encroachment over the right-of-way, to be honest.
Let me explain the right-of-way. The right-of-way is 1.5 meters from the property line, whereas the neighbor's portion of the right-of-way is only 0.9 meters on his side. His wall is right on the 0.9 from our lot line. The bylaw is 1.2. So had we encroached, we still, as of right, have a permission to encroach over top of the right-of-way up to up to 3.3 meters over the right-of-way. I don't believe in all the work that I've done in the city of Toronto over all my years, there's never been a concern of an encroachment over a right-of-way at a second floor or higher level. If we look, there's a photograph I have of the right-of-way, and you can see already elements like, air conditioning units are sitting above the right-of-way or encroaching on the right-of-way. I think if you could bring up a photo, there is one that demonstrates that. So both neighbors are, in fact, enjoying the ability to use the space above the right-of-way. And it's always been my interpretation, and I haven't had any problems with building departments in terms of encroaching into a right-of-way as long as it's above grade. There's another drawing, I think another photo more up close of that condition. I think it's a photo. I don't know if you got it all. Yeah, keep going. I think what did you call it? Photo of side yard. I think it's listed on your supporting doc. That's the street. Anyway, so the idea of why only 0.3 versus 0.6 is actually 0.5 encroachment over the right-of-way, it seemed to be not having an impact on our neighbors. We tried to meet with them to explain that to them. That's a good for you. So the air conditioning units could right now encroach over that right-of-way. But it doesn't stop the use and enjoyment of that space for basically pedestrian access to the rear. So our second floor addition will not impede any ground level access to the rear of both properties. And so they becomes what is an appropriate setback? Is the bylaw really 1.2 meters really appropriate when you see the neighbor next to us is at 0.9? Our south side is, I think, 0.3 or something. And all these neighborhoods and all the homes in this Cedarville community have varying side yards that are less than the bylaw's 1.2. So the two issues: one, are you entitled to encroach? We believe we are above the first floor. And is it appropriate, and what are the impacts going, to the same setback as our neighbor? And we thought it was reasonable, and we don't see the big impact along that side. We're not putting windows into it. We're not overlooking the backyard. And as I pointed out, the neighbor could build as well at the back.
Okay, you've made that point.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Chan, question for you.
Actually, that was my question, and yeah, he answered it. So that's my overhang request. Yeah.
Let's go on now to the speaker that's standing by. And ask that speaker to join us by stating your name, please.
Hello, my name is Evan Torrance. I am representing Michael Lewis, the owners of 446 directly north.
You have 5 minutes, Michael. Sorry, Evan, go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I run a residential design firm here in Toronto. I was contacted by the owners of 446 to review the application, and together we had a few concerns that were already brought up by one of the committee members, that being the 2-foot overhang that will hang over the usual drive. The applicant mentioned air conditioners. Well, I agree with him in that there are certain kind of leeway elements that are allowed to overhang. A 2-foot addition kind of for the majority of that side wall we don't find to be minor. And then because we are to the north,
can you tell us what the impact would be of that overhang? What's the impact on 446, please?
Well, I guess the impact would be as he mentioned, if we were to do a similar addition, then we're starting to get quite close to one another, even if it's at the second story. I mean, there's reasons for the setbacks, primarily for access and for fire safety. So that's variance 2, and variance 3 and 4 both pertain to heights and length. The applicant has mentioned that, in fact, if you were to measure it from the front wall to the back of the addition, it's under 17 meters, but that's not a real accurate measurement, as the zoning review pointed out, because they are filling in the front porch as well. So if you were to look at a site plan, the shaded area, the dark shaded area is the current, and then the light shaded area is the proposed. The application is essentially asking to double the footprint of the existing house. And given the height variance of almost a meter, we're talking about a very significant loss of sun, given that we're to the north. It would have a huge impact on the enjoyment of their property. So for these reasons, we don't believe that a 2 meter length variance and a nearly 1 meter height variance and a 2 foot overhang are minor in nature. As the committee member mentioned, it doesn't really seem as though there's a concrete reason for that jog in the addition. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions for our speaker? Okay. We'll go back to the applicant. The applicant, you've heard what the speaker had to say. Concern that, basically, as I heard it, was that the combination of the depth variance with the height variance results in a massing issue for the neighbors. All of a sudden, the massing of that new property looms over them. Could you respond to that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The issue is, the bylaw permits, and the intent of the bylaw has always permitted a length of house of 17 meters. The required front, it's measured from the required front yard, as I explained to you, is well ahead of the way the three houses at 442, 444, and 446 are all in alignment. All of them should have the right to build back to 17 meters. The front porch is a bit of an anomaly on the length of this house, but it's really existing condition that we're just trying to fill in, because the basement is filled in now. There is a roof over it, and we're trying to partially fill in. But the main impact, the main alignment of the three houses, of these neighboring houses, are all the same. Our neighbor also would have the right to build 17 meters back, or even a little bit further back than where we are. And we would not oppose to him doing that. He would be permitted, as a right, to follow the existing north wall of his property at the 0.9 meter setback as of right, with notwithstanding anything new would be 1.2, but because the existing allowance is to go straight back, he would enjoy that 0.9.
Let me jump in there.
The same 0.9
Excuse me.
setback.
Let me jump in there for a second, because that's not the question. That we understand that 17 is permitted by right, but you're asking for 19 essentially. So that is where the issue begins to come forward to the committee.
Yeah.
Why then is 19? If 17 is okay, why is 19 okay when there is this massing concern?
Can we go back to the site plan drawing? It's more of a technical reason why we actually have the longer length, just because the way these homes were constructed on the curve of Arlington Avenue. So the Arlington Avenue street line is curving away from us and is pulled back, the setback. So these existing three homes, and I think of more of them going to the north, are in alignment that is as shown. The measured length of the depth is only because of this curve and the location of this front yard setback. Because one neighbor gets closer, the other neighbor is 5.9, the other neighbor is 8.919, and the average comes to 7.8, and we're caught in the middle. So we see this as a bit of an anomaly in the way the arc of the curve in the street, because the typical alignment should have been the three houses in a row. 17 meters, we believe, is appropriate from that point. And we have not exceeded that. Plus, we have this 21 meter deep rear yard condition for lots of light and enjoyment. And then the idea of, the 0.9 meters, the building code deals with fire and fire safety. 0.9 meters is where they're at. We don't believe that we're asking for anything more than our neighbor has in terms of this new setback. And we believe we have a right to build over top of the right-of-way as long as we don't impede it at grade level.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cheng, go ahead.
Hello. A very quick question. If I'm going to support your application, are you okay to, because of item number 5, and I understand that this is almost like a pie-shaped lot, and for that reason, I've seen that the setback, the way how it works, and it reduced the greenscape pretty significantly. Are you okay to have a permeable paving for the rest of the space?
You're speaking, I think, of variance 5, which is regarding the front yard soft landscaping.
That's right.
Front yard, that's
so,
right?
If we have, yes, exactly. So I understand that why the numbers increase significantly, right? So and it has to do with your front yard setback. So item 1, number 5 are kind of related. But what I'm asking is, you look at your site plan. Let's say site plan 1 to 200. That plan, you have the driveway.
Yes.
So are you okay to have permeable paving over there?
We would be.
Okay.
Okay. If there are no further questions for the applicant, then let's take the application into committee for a discussion and a motion, please. Who'd like to go first?
Okay, I go first then.
Go ahead, Ms. Chen.
Yes, I look at the overall proposal. It's really what they're just adding in terms of setback, just to have a bit of overhang on that easement, and I think that's quite reasonable. And the only thing that is variance number 5, although I did not bring it up only because it does not really affect the overall application. Is that on the site plan they did not actually indicate where the soft landscape is, but when I look at the 3Ds, I know where it is, and also with the city property, that green space is actually increased. There's also some soft landscape outside the property, and I also accept the explanation that is on the curve lot, and that's what I find that the massing actually works with the 2 Egyptian neighbors, and with conditions by staff in the staff report, and I'm in support of this for approval.
Thank you. Who else? Mr. Chen, go ahead.
Yes, I am also in support of the application. I have looked at, I have reviewed and listened to the opponent's side. I think the overhang is reasonable. It doesn't, and there's a laneway at the back. So one day, if the neighbor wants to have built a garage like this owner, they can also access it from the back. I see that the building seems to be quite long, but it doesn't trigger any real setback. So the building is longer than it is, but I think it's still reasonable. And the fact that they're willing to change the paving at the front to permeable paving is a bonus to me, so I will support the application.
Thank you. Ms. Valentini.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't be supporting the application. I have concerns about the request for the side lot setback. I think my concerns are, in terms of why they need to encroach over the right-of-way. I'm not satisfied with that, and they are adding a significant amount to this house. I know there's not an FSI variance, but it is adding a request, and I understand how the calculation works. I mean, but I'm just not in support of the application, and particularly in relation to the side yard setback. I don't see any reason for that, so I won't be supporting this application.
Thank you very much. For my part, I am satisfied with what I've heard, that the 4 tests are met. So I would look to someone on panel for a motion, please. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, I move a motion for approval subject to the staff report conditions, which is the setback applied to just the one story front porch, and the other one is also Aaron's condition about replacing the front yard driveway to be permeable pavement.
Very good.
And that are the two conditions.
Motion to approve subject to those conditions. Is there a second? It is seconded by Mr. Cheng. So moved and seconded to approve with the stated conditions. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And those opposed, Ms. Valentini, let the record show, is opposed. The motion is carried and the application is approved subject to those conditions. And at this stage, it is 11:47. We'll take a 10-minute recess and return at 11:57. Now in recess for 10 minutes. Okay, we resume now on item number 9. Hear a bit of an echo there.
Yeah, somebody's.
88 South Drive. On this item, the panel has before it applicant's materials, an arborist report from 25th of May. There is a report from, or email correspondence from Heritage Preservation, and there is correspondence both in support and in opposition. In support from 86 South Drive, James Ostreicher. In opposition from 92 South Drive, Denise and Jeffrey Phillips. Plus, there is recently received a staff report from Heritage Planning on October the 5th relating to this application. So, now let me ask you, moderator, is James Ostreicher standing by to speak?
No, Mr. Chair.
He's
We've
not.
phoned him and emailed him, but he's not here with us.
Okay.
But we do have him notes that he may not speak, so maybe.
Yes, and his letter received was in support, actually. Okay, let's go then to the agent and ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Lord, 380 Secondary Road. Can you hear me?
Okay, good morning. We have a bit of an echo situation. We're just seeing.
Sorry, I'm gonna fix that. Hold on.
Okay, then.
Sorry, is that better now?
That is better now, yes.
Okay, I have some problems with Rogers, which we're correcting, so I may lose audio connection. I will reconnect with a click of a few buttons, but just letting you know. Would you like me to start?
Well, just hang on a second. There's no one speaking in opposition, so panel, would you like a presentation on this application? Do you have questions for the applicant? I'd like the applicant.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Chang.
It was just a quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Let's Ms. Valentini go first. Ms. Chen second.
Mr. Rose, it's just regarding the conditions set out in the Heritage Department staff report. I'm sure you've probably seen that. Are you okay with that?
We are.
Standard condition. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Chen.
Just a quick one. On where is number 4? What is the existing length of that house? It seems that what it is already existing. What you're asking, is it not?
So if staff can put up the existing plans, we can show the length. The house is already long. I think the best thing to do would be put up the existing plans, which are one or two more. That's the existing length. If staff can zoom in there, top there. So it's existing at 23.94.
Yeah. So you are extending another like 20 to maybe 6-7 meters, right?
Yeah. So it's a one-story projection. There's a one-story projection there. It's built very poorly. This is a beautiful heritage house. It's been vetted through all the departments. It's only on one floor. The neighbors have seen it. If I do want to say, because I told Mr. Osterlich, if you approve it, you can make it subject to the revised elevations that I submitted, because we have a private agreement that I would modify the design. It doesn't change any of the variances. It just changes the roof slope next to him to the west. So you want to approve it, you can approve it subject to those new submissions. Did I answer your question though?
Yes, I did, because I just tried to understand how much you're adding to the existing length, which is, I assume is already exceeding what the bylaw allows. That's what I want to make sure.
Yes, it is.
Yes, there was another question. Was there another question for Mr. Rose from anybody? I'd like, Mr. Rose, if you would have read the letter from 92.
I have.
From next door, and basically it raises issues that relate to the impact of the height and the length variances, what I would refer to as massing. Could you respond to that letter, please?
Yes. So if staff can put up the site plan. By the way, I spoke to Jeffrey, very, very nice guy and great neighbor. His main concern, he told me, was the window that he has adjacent to our project. So he's at 92 there. So he says we're going to block his window, which he doesn't have very many windows on that side of the house, but there is one on his staircase. What we're noting is that he has a 0.89 meter side yard setback. We're asking for 0.9, which is existing. If you see, his house is more or less in a straight line. Ours jogs back, and we go from 0.97 to 4.51. So if we're going to add on to this house, Heritage would want us to line up in line with the existing one-story garage. There's really no other place to go. They won't let us alter the front of the house. We did design the addition above the garage to be in keeping with the existing architecture. So what he explained to me is that his view will be gone. He's looking over a one-story roof. Yes, it's going to be higher, but you know, if we were to build a house as long as his and as close to the property line as his, he would have less of a view. At least he has a view to the south, because our setback goes to 4.51, even greater than that. So most of his letter, you know, I can address all the issues, not really planning issues. He did describe to me his main concern was that window, and I understand it will be a change. We discussed it. But I don't think, if you compare the massing of his house to the massing that we're proposing next door to him, it's far less. I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. Ms. Valentini.
Mr. Rose, you said about tying it to updated plans. What does staff have those plans? Because I don't seem to have updated plans.
Pardon me, elevations only.
Well, yeah, but even the elevations. What are the date of those? Are you talking about the elevations we have that are dated?
Yes.
Oh, okay, April 7th. You didn't submit new elevations. Is that correct?
Right here, a roof plan and 2 elevations. That's the rear. We moved the addition further away from
these
it.
are supplemental. Okay, I don't have those, so I just wondered what they were. So the staff has the updated plans. You
Yes.
moved the roof. I see.
It's a private agreement.
Okay, so they're dated.
Doesn't change any of the variances.
Those are the 29 September elevations. Oh. Okay. Well, then that would be important. We should tie to that. Yes. If there was a motion to approve. Any further questions for the applicant panel? If not, can we move to a motion? Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on the submissions given by Mr. Rose and his explanations in terms of sort of what the existing conditions are on the site, and my review of the materials, and I'm satisfied in my view that these additions, although on paper it may look like they're, you know, quite a bit of being asked for, particularly in terms of length or depth of the property of the building. I think, in my view, I think it meets the 4 tests. I don't see there being really any impact on either neighbor as a result of the length or depth variance, which may look rather large. And Mr. Rose did note that the existing property is already well over the requirement, and these are very large lots. So I think the lot can hold this addition. And I think in terms of how the building, in terms of articulation and the whatnot, and setbacks in terms of the length, and he did note it's a one-story, I think there will be no impact on the neighbors. So I'm in support of the application. In my view, I think it meets the 4 tests. And I don't know if my colleagues want to add anything further. I'm happy to bring a motion forward for approval of the application. And if I would make it subject to the conditions set out in the Heritage Department memo, as discussed, as well as tying it to the plans that Mr. Rose had submitted. I believe they were dated September 29th, in terms of the elevations.
Apparently there are plans dated 05 October that are the most
That is
recent.
correct. Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have those either, so I'm happy to tie those to those plans. I think they're the ones that you showed in terms of the elevation and the roof plan, and the slight change to the roof. So that would be my motion.
Thank you. Second to that motion. It is seconded by Ms. Chen. And so moved and seconded to approve subject to Heritage and the elevations submitted 05 October 2021. Those in favor, show of hands. And the motion is carried unanimously. The application is approved. Thank you. We move on to item number 10. Eight, DACRE Crescent. On this application, panel has before it applicant's materials, an arborist report, and tree protection plan. There's correspondence from TRCA from May, commenting reports from Urban Forestry and from TRCA, and correspondence in support from 4 DACRE Crescent and 14 Valleymead Road. And we'll ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Hi, it's Jean Chan.
Good morning.
I submitted the form for representing the property as partner. I'm the partner for Ira Cohen. I just wanted to see if anyone is attending today so that I can, if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer it.
Thank you, Jean. No, we're not showing any registered speakers on this application. So that being the case, I'm going to ask panel members if they would like a presentation or whether they have any questions directly for you. And I'm not hearing any questions, nor am I hearing a request for presentation. So, in that case, panel, I would look to a panel member to move to to a motion, please. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I have studied the application and also the site is actually well hidden from the street. I'm not sure any of this proposal will actually have negative impact of any kind. And I think the overall variance is minor, and I'm in support for approval, subject to. I don't think there are any conditions.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? It is seconded by Ms. Valentini. Moved and seconded to approve without condition. Those in favor? And that motion is carried by unanimous vote. The application is approved. Panel moves on to application number 11. 15, BRALORNE Crescent. On this application, we have before us the applicant's materials, And we have correspondence from TRCA from June, from Urban Forestry from June and September, and a staff report from Urban Forestry from 29 September. And there is correspondence in support in the form of 8 form letters representing owners from 1 and 11 BRALORNE, 50 Pasadena Gardens, 19 BRALORNE, 100 Varsity Road, 17 Grand Park Court, 1 Warren Crescent. Those all received before September 29. So, items number 11 and 12 both relate to the same semi, the two sides of a semi. So, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, can we deal with these two applications together, do you think, or should we deal with them separately?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think you should deal with them separately.
We
Yes.
will, okay. Okay, well, we'll deal with panel with these separately. They are the two sides of a semi, but we'll just deal with one at a time. So, on number 11, 15 BRALORNE, I shall ask the agent to join us, please.
Hi, this is Kevin Barry, the agent for the owner.
Thank you very much. Did you say your name again is Kevin Barry?
Kevin Barry, yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, you're a little louder now, thank you. Okay, very good. And on this application, moderator, I don't see anyone listed to speak. No?
Yes,
So
Mr. Chair, we have 2 people registered to speak.
are they not the agent also? Are they not also members of the
we do,
agency
yes,
team?
actually. Yes, I see that here.
So there's an agency team here of 3 by the looks of it.
Yes.
Okay, so panel members, would you like a presentation on this application? Are there any questions to put to the agent? Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yes, I noticed that there's some variances are triggered by the existing partition. Will you please go through the list and tell us which one are, so I know?
Yes, so you're asking if which variances are triggered by an existing condition?
Yes.
Exactly.
So predominantly we have, because of this particular unit, its position on the lot as a pie shape, we are in a existing build form does create an existing condition of the front yard landscaping and driveway condition that is again an existing condition that we're not causing a further contravention to, so we're just recognizing that. And in those instances, those would be the major components that are existing and not complying. The existing location of the garage is also just as out of best practice, we want to continue utilizing that similar framework or foundation location, and that's just a matter of the kind of the nuances of the existing conditions on the site.
Okay, I'm sorry if I missed what you said, but are any of the 5 variances existing conditions on the site?
8. Are they 8?
Pardon me, there are 8. Are any one of those?
So we have, if you were to itemize them?
Just go by number,
but
yeah. Just
so that we get the overall pictures that what you're asking is this is a faster way to understand.
Absolutely, yeah. So the item number 2, that would be the front landscape. That's an existing condition. 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be all part of the proposal that we're making. 7 is arguable as to whether or not that's an existing condition, but it's basically just extending the existing driveway in a manner that would constitute proper access for our space. And then again, number 8 and 7 would be part of the proposal.
Okay.
Further
thank you.
questions? Any further questions? Is anyone ready for a motion? Ms. Valentini, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I think that helped clarify sort of that some of these are existing conditions. So I thank Ms. Chan for, having the applicant do that. So it sounds like some of the front yard landscaping and the driveway, some of that is existing. In terms of the addition itself to the semi, and the ask for the slight increase in the sidewall height, I think that is truly minor in nature. And the other in terms of variances with respect to the garage, some of them are existing, some of them are not, but I don't see any impact in terms of those variances on neighbors or otherwise. And I just wanted to note that it's nice to see neighbors doing renovations and additions together, because often when there's a semi with an addition on the top and the other side isn't, it looks unbalanced. So I'm happy that that's happening in this case. That being said, I think it meets the 4 tests, and I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval, subject to urban forestry condition number 1.
That is seconded by Ms. Chan.
Yeah, I second it and echo Lisa's comment. And in ideal world, all semi owners should do it all together in the future. Yeah.
I echo both of you. Very good. Okay. Moved and seconded to approve subject to forestry. Those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous vote to carry the motion. And number 15, BRALORNE, number 11 application is approved subject to forestry. Let's move on to number 12 item, 17 BRALORNE. And we shall ask on 17, or on the property at 17, the items before us are applicant's materials, email correspondence from TRCA, from Urban Forestry, and support in the form of 8 form letters, and I believe these are signed by the same persons as signed the support for 15. So let's return to the agent. Agent, if you join us again by stating your name.
Yes, it's Kevin Barry.
Very good. Okay, on this application panel, maybe we'll start by asking you again to point out any of the variances that are existing conditions, and anything different on this side of the property that we might want to know about.
Of course, yes. In this instance, because of the positioning of the lot is not a pie shape, none of the variances that we're seeking are existing non-conforming. They're all related to the proposed construction. But again, they are minor in nature.
Thank you. Further questions, panel? If not, I'll look to someone to come forward with a motion, please. Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Sorry, I just got to tickle my throat as I unmuted. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel in this case as well, it's a similar application. I think some of these are triggered, although they're triggered by the additions. This is an odd-shaped lot, so that contributes to some of these variances. But notwithstanding, I think they meet the 4 tests. I don't see any undue impact that will arise out of these on adjacent neighbors, and they do have some support from neighbors, so or support from the neighborhood. That being said, I'm happy to bring a motion forward for approval of the application without conditions in this case.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Chang. Moved and seconded to approve without condition. Those in favor? And that motion is carried. The application is so approved. The panel moves on to item number 13. 129 St. Clair Avenue West. Here we are before us. Applicant's materials, agent's cover letter, agent's presentation materials from 29 September, previous 2011 committee decision, and a site-specific bylaw. There is email correspondence from transportation. There's a letter from Councillor Josh Matlow from 23 November. There is correspondence both in opposition and in support. In support, from 42 Foxbar, 54 Foxbar, Guy Ratchford, and 54 Foxbar, Pamela Thompson. In opposition, the correspondence comes from 129 St. Clair West. And on this speaker, we do have a number of speakers registered. Moderator, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, but it looks like we have a few who are not here.
Okay, we can come to that in a moment. At this point, we will ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, panel. My name is Matthew Schuman. I'm a lawyer at McCarthy Petra. We represent the applicant at Church Terrace Development.
Good afternoon. Okay, Mr. Schuman, you have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Please go ahead.
So, panel, I commend your attention to the presentation that was submitted last week. The main thing here is that this variance is about a change in use to an existing development that's already constructed. It came as a result of a request from the community and the councilor's office. There's going to be some reconfigurations of
Mr. Schuman,
Road for truck.
Mr.
Yes?
Schuman, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes.
Believe your transmission, your audio transmission is it's a bit there's a bit of a buzz to it. Can you think of any reason that anything you could correct there?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I can't hear that same buzz.
It's
I
just
will.
Then
I will see if I can make adjustments.
please go ahead.
So as I was saying, this request is a result of traffic calming measures on Foxbar Road. Some street parking spaces are going to be lost. And so there was a conversation among the community, the owner, and the councilor's office about providing some parking in the visitor area of the existing parking garage. I understand, and perhaps staff can confirm that the objections were withdrawn. I understand they're in your file, so I'm happy to answer any questions raised by those letters. I think the key points here, the applicant is seeking some minor technical clarifications to the wording of the variance in the notice. That's on page 5 of the presentation. There are a couple corrections to which bylaws are being varied. And then in variance 3, we did receive some questions about what was happening on the site and where non-residential uses would be located. So I submit, we're requesting these clarifications to variance number 3 to clean that up. I submit to you that these are technical and minor and therefore permissible for the committee to change under section 45 sub 18.1.1. There's no change to the plans before you. and no change to the impacts based on the change in the wording. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions from the panel.
Thank you. Are there questions for the applicant panel? Hearing none, let's go to the registered speakers then. Good morning, or good afternoon.
Oh, good morning. You know, I'm just listening to the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you state your name, please?
Jill D'Souza.
Okay, Jill. You have as much as 5 minutes to address the, Oh, you're just listening. Very good. In that case, let's check with the next speaker.
Mr. Chair, the only speaker that we have who's registered is Kevin Yu. Kevin, you've been unmuted. You can go ahead.
I'm just listening to the presentation as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all we have, Mr. Chair.
Just those two. Okay then. Well, you're most welcome to listen. In fact, we're glad that you are. Okay. So we have now determined there are no speakers standing by who wish to speak in opposition to the application. So we can come back to the applicant now, and I'm not sure whether I gave the panel an opportunity to ask questions. Panel, are there any questions for the applicant? Forgive me if I'm repeating. No. Hearing none, then I'll look to the panel to move to a motion, please. Ms. Chan, go ahead.
Yeah, I will move for approval because I read the presentation is actually they just make change of use of the parking to meet more community needs, and I think it's a good thing, and I'm in support, and I move for approval with no conditions.
Okay. Is there a second to, pardon me? As amended. Yes, okay. Ms. Chan?
Okay, but all right, yes, that's
The application as amended.
yeah, okay.
Okay, yes. Okay. So, Ms. Chan, the applicant has requested these alterations to the variances. Is your motion to approve subject to these modifications?
Yes, as amended variances, but
Very-
with no conditions.
Very good, okay. So, important point, thank you, staff. So moved to approve, subject to these revisions. Is there a second for that motion? It is seconded by Ms. Valentini. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor? And unanimous vote of approval on that motion. The application is approved, subject to the revisions submitted by the applicant. And the panel moves along to 869 Logan Ave, item number 14. On this application, we have before us the applicant's materials, the agent's cover letter. There are a variety of previous Committee of Adjustment decisions affecting properties on Logan. There's correspondence from Community Planning. And we have both support and opposition correspondence. In support, from 871 Logan. There are two form letters signed by 867 and 865 Logan in support. in opposition. Correspondence from 44 Fenwick, 46 Fenwick, and from 42 Fenwick. All those received before September 29. So we'll ask the agent to join us, please, by stating your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of committee. My name is David Smith. I'm here representing the homeowners of 869 Logan Avenue.
Good afternoon, David. Okay, David, you have up to 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to start by simply highlighting the effort that my clients made to inform the neighborhood. They basically started back in July and circulated their personal information and were fielding questions and answering concerns all the way up until the submission deadline to ensure that people really knew what was going on with this. This is evidenced by the support letters of both side neighbors, which I think we can all agree for development like this is quite integral and important. Beyond this, I mean, we also, as is typical, dealt with city planning. We corresponded with them on a number of occasions to ensure that they were also supportive and understood the logic and consideration behind the design decisions and the variances that we would be seeking. This is evidenced by the fact that we don't have a city planning report in opposition or recommending refusal. Overall, with regards to the application as a whole, it's my opinion that the variances can be considered minor. I think for the most part they are technical. I think the only two that really jump out in my mind is the sidewall height variance, where we're seeking just over 10 meters, where 7.5 meters is allowed, and the FSI variance, where we're seeking 92%, where typically 60% is permitted. In both of these scenarios, or sort of, I guess, to supplement these variances, I submitted the above-mentioned materials that Mr. Chair had identified at the beginning to demonstrate that within this zone, we've seen FSI approvals from anywhere between 87% and 115%. So again, our 92 is quite reasonable. And for the sidewall height, particularly for a low-slope building roof design, we've seen sidewall height approvals up to 10.4 meters. So again, we're certainly not trying to establish any new precedents or push the envelope further than previous approvals. It was a fine balance of maximizing the availability of space on the site and meeting the requirements of the family and what they'd like to do with the property, and also stay within sort of the thresholds that have been established previously. I think I'll leave it at that. I'm not sure if there are speakers in opposition on the phone, but I will be happy to answer any questions you have. We can go from there.
Okay, yes. Pam, do you want to do questions now, or shall we go to the speakers first? We'll go to the speakers first. So we do have speakers standing by, and moderator?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Catherine Dennis is canceled. And Robert Cox, we've called an email, but it doesn't seem he's joined us. Give me 1 minute.
Let's give him a moment to join us. Very good.
Hello, is this Catherine Dennis?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Catherine. I thought, were you canceling your registration, or are you speaking now?
I did, but now I'd like to speak. I'm getting confused between listening to the WebEx and the phone, so.
Very good, Catherine. You are now with the panel. So.
Sorry, am I now on?
Just a moment, please. I'm just going to check with the moderator.
Okay.
Do we have?
We just have Catherine.
Just Catherine.
The other registration.
Okay. So, Catherine.
Yes, it is.
Catherine, you are now with the panel, and you have as much as 5 minutes to present your concerns about the application to us, and tell us what the impact would be and what your concerns are.
Okay, great, thanks. Yes, Catherine Dennis, my house backs onto the laneway directly across from the applicants. And I do have a number of concerns. Yes, I did receive the letter that they passed around suggesting that it was basically making minor repairs to create home offices, which was really not what came across when I saw the actual application. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
We do hear you fine. You're doing, yeah, we hear you
Okay,
clearly.
good.
Go ahead.
Okay, great, sorry. Okay, so my main concerns deal with the requested height variances, I guess numbers 5, 6, and 11. At those heights and the size of the windows that they're looking to put in on the third floor, they look to be huge and would be looking directly into my backyard and onto my own second floor rooms, which is a significant privacy concern. I'm also concerned about the addition blocking light and cutting down significantly on the light access into the laneway versus what's already there. And I am concerned, I know that they've submitted some plans that speak to other third-story constructions, but we live in sort of a little micro neighborhood here, Logan and Fenwick, and there really aren't those kinds of homes in our area, in this particular area, and concerned that that might be setting a bit of a precedence in terms of what can be allowed going forward. And I think, you know, individually, these do look like minor variances, but when you collectively look at the whole thing, it makes me a little bit concerned that it comes across as building an extremely large house on a very small area of land that is really not with the character of the houses in the surrounding areas. Also had some concerns, items 3, 4, about reducing the landscaping area, largely in terms of the impact that that might have on the property's ability to absorb rainfall. Something we're seeing is becoming more of an issue. So if, you know, if their area can't absorb any amount of rainfall that's coming, it may end up running off into their property, into my yard, and potentially flooding my own basement as a result. And then finally, unless I'm misunderstanding this, item 8, the variance permitting the floor space is actually like what I understand to be a 53% increase, which is not a minor variance as far as I'm concerned, and really just adds to my growing concern about this being a potential for monster homes being built in the Danforth Village neighborhood that I live in. And the only other one is, I'm not sure how far back from the lane the garage would be built, but there is a residence, 855 Logan, that has a window there, and I'm pretty sure if they built a garage there, that residence would no longer have any light. I don't know if they have been made aware of that explicitly to realize the impact of building the garage. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions for Catherine? No, I'm not hearing any, so thank you, Catherine. We'll go back now to the applicant for his chance to respond and rebut. And applicant, what we heard from the speaker was concern about overlook issues, about blockage of sunlight issues, and also about the combination of the various variances that you are requesting, their combination creating an overall massing issue when taken together. So I'll ask you to respond to those things. Also, you're asking for reduced soft landscaping both front and back. The speaker was concerned about stormwater. We'd like each property to be able to absorb its own fair share of stormwater, and that issue was raised with concern about stormwater draining onto other properties. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd be happy to answer these concerns. Jacob, could you bring up that Google Map link that I sent you, please? Can you switch it to the 3D view where you're on an axis, sort of just in the right-hand corner? This helps. We can get more fancy if necessary. Yeah, it's okay. Don't worry, Jacob. Just if you can scroll it back up, just leave it there. That's fine. What this helps to demonstrate. So on the left is 869. To the right is 40, 42, 44, 46 Fenwick Drive. I appreciate the concerns with regards to privacy and loss of sunlight, but it's important to understand that these concerns are from people that are separated by the lengths of two lots and the laneway in between. We can also see, and it's more prevalent in the 3D, but I don't want to mess with the screen, that they benefit from a large tree canopy coverage as well, that I expect for the majority of the year will inhibit any kind of overlook that we might foresee given the distance between the buildings. Again, I do appreciate this concern. It comes up quite regularly, but I think that in considering the nature of downtown Toronto and densification, one has to expect that we are living in close proximity. Window coverings and the like, I think, satisfy a lot of this concern on both sides. Similarly, with the loss of light comment, the separation between properties, I think, sort of nullifies this. I'll jump down to the soft landscaping concerns. Again, specific to Fenwick, we are separated by a laneway that has established drainage in it, so nothing can drain towards them. With regards to the front soft landscaping variance, it's actually an improvement over the existing condition, because right now the entire front yard is poured concrete and we'll be replacing it with interlock. So it will be more absorptive, not less. And the rear yard, although we are seeking what would be considered a minor variance because we're at 40%, we're offering 40%, the requirement's 50, we are trying to accommodate the garage, which is effectively as of right. We are seeking a variance for the parking space width, because again, we're showing 2 parking spaces, and we just wanted that on record. Typically, you're only required 1 parking space for a single-family dwelling, and we would comply wholeheartedly with the garage. With regards to the concern of the neighbor next door, they have been informed, and they share great relations with my clients. We discussed their window with them. It's a non-conforming window. It's all glass block, and they are considering either replacing it with a skylight or otherwise leaving it. They are fully aware. Again, with the garage being as of right, this is within our client's ability to do irrespective of C of A. If Jacob, if you could rotate the Google map to look south, just hit the, yeah, I mean, again, so if you go to the right-hand corner and switch it to 3D, so go to 3D, drop because this is important, sorry guys, it'll take 2 seconds. If you grab the little icon of the woman and drop her in the laneway, now zoom all the way out so it goes to 3D. Just zoom out and zoom up. Like zoom out, zoom out.
Sorry, it won't zoom out any more than that.
On the wheel. The point that I'm trying to emphasize is I appreciate the comments about this being a micro neighborhood. To the south, and I can give you all the addresses, along Fenwick and Logan, there are a series of 3-story homes on both sides of the streets with laneway garages that look into each other's yards with windows of the same size. On Fenwick, it's basically homes 10 through 28, and on Logan, it's 843 up to 855. So again, to suggest that this isn't, yeah, if you just zoom all the way out, it'll take you to the 3D, I don't know what it's called, sorry Jacob. I thought that the link I sent would properly illustrate this. Just keep zooming out, zoom, zoom, zoom with the wheel. Anyhow, the point is that literally the south half of this quote-unquote micro neighborhood is exactly the size and character of the buildings that we're proposing. So I don't think that it's really accurate to state that we're looking to do anything that is non-existent in the neighborhood or in any way challenges the existing character. Apologies for the technical details. Thank you so much, Jacob, for your help. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you very much. Okay. Panel, now your turn. Questions for the applicant, please. If you have any. Ms. Valentini.
Just a quick question. Often, I have concerns about changing the symmetry of two semis. I noticed that the attached neighbor is okay. Is that correct?
They are,
Mr.
yes.
Smith? Yeah, they're okay. In terms of how this will be visible from the street, I did notice that you're maintaining the front roof line to a point, and then the additions step back. Is that going to be really visible, or is that going to? Do you have to be like, I know the area very well. Do you have to? Will it be jarring? I suppose is the word.
No, it's a great question. I mean, I think the things to appreciate are that this portion of Logan is basically elevated. Again, I don't know if Jacob can draw up a screenshot of the front, but so what that means is, you walk up a set of steps before you even get to the property, and then you walk up a porch, and directly west of them is a school. So
right, I know the area.
Residential properties looking at this, so it is certainly subdued. We definitely wanted to maintain that existing characteristic of the two semis because that's integral. But we sort of did our best by setting back the addition and sort of preserving that. We were limited to where we could put square footage, so it was obviously a push-pull because we didn't want the building to get too long. But definitely efforts were made to keep it as, aesthetically pleasing as possible until, next door does something similar, which I expect will happen in the future.
Okay, that was going to be my next question, but thank you. That helps. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, this stage panel, is anyone ready to move forward with a motion? Ms. Valentini, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've reviewed the materials thoroughly. I'm familiar with this area, and I think Mr. Smith's arguments in terms of addressing some of the concerns raised by the neighborhood or the area residents, in my view, he's addressed those concerns. I think that although it may look like a larger addition, there is 3-story buildings are permitted in this neighborhood, and there's not an overall height variance. There's a slight overall height variance. It's 5.48 meters. I feel, in my view, that's negligible considering there are many 3-story houses in this neighborhood. And I'm satisfied with Mr. Smith's comment about how, in terms of breaking up the symmetry of the semis, and the fact that this lot does sit higher, I think that it will not have an adverse impact on the semi next door. And I did note the neighbor next door is okay with it. So I think as well, in terms of the length or the depth variance, again, it's quite minor. So it's 0.25 meters over. I don't think there'll be any impact, in my view, on neighbors on the complete other side of the lane. The lot looks fairly deep, this lot. That being said, I think, in my view, this meets the 4 tests. And it's, in terms of FSI, is comparable to other properties in the neighborhood. So I'm happy to bring a motion forward for approval, and there will be no conditions on that.
Thank you. Ms. Chan, is that second?
Yes, sir. I will second it, and I echo a lot of this analysis because I look at the area too. There are actually a lot of 2.5-story and some 3-story houses already, and the design of such of the third floor is such that it's set back from both the front and the back, and I think they saw that it will not look like from the curbside it is a full 3-story building. And I think that they managed to mitigate that massive impact. And I sort of divide the variances into 2 groups mainly. One group is triggered by existing condition. The other ones are relatively minor. The only thing stands out is the SSI for me. But then with comparison that I trust it is within the most of the property in the area, so I'm also in support of it.
Are you seconding the motion?
Yes.
Yes, you are. Okay, very good. Moved and seconded. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor? And it is a unanimous vote to carry the motion to approve the application. With that, the panel moves along to number 15, 211 Forest Hill Road.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I just need to switch over the YouTube live stream right now. So
Very
if you
good.
can take 2 minutes.
Couple of minutes. So we're going to do a technical changeover here. We'll ask everybody to stand by for 2 or 3 minutes. Thank
For
you.
those of you watching on YouTube, the stream is going to end in a second. And if you just wait a minute, then research Committee of Adjustment, Toronto East York, October 6th, you'll find that a new stream is